All right, welcome to this Monday's version of Memory Team meeting. Kick it off, we'll go through social styles. I shared the exercise with everybody on the Memory Team channel. I don't know how much folks want to chat about this, but posted my scores as I noted below. I bounced between analytical and amiable. I think I landed on analytical a little bit more, but most of the time I was within about 0.1 of being dead center. So I didn't land too strongly in either when I took the test over and over. And I found that it largely pivoted on a couple of questions, and we can talk about those later if folks want to. Matthias, was there anything you want to share with your social style quiz?
I had like the score, so they were assigned to like a certain category. So I don't know what the. Well, yeah, hang on. I can paste it in the document later. But yeah, like I had a similar impression as I think it was Alexei, that maybe it's by design, but it was very unspecific, right?
Mm-hmm.
The question. So I guess that would, yeah, it's like a little bit open to interpretation, I guess.
Totally. Yeah. Alexei?
But some questions are repeatable, so maybe that's the reason.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it was fun to take this kind of amenable, and I think it kind of makes sense. I mean, it fits what I expected. But yeah, as Matthias said, also super prone to interpretation, and it also depends on the context. So in some situation, you could be analytical and you should be analytical, and some you should be amiable, and so on. And I'm pretty much sure it's more like a mix, but it could raise some interesting questions. So an interesting discussion. I think that's maybe the goal of this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The two questions that probably changed my score mostly from amiable to analytical were controlling and warm versus cool. So when I first took it, I took the controlling question as a manager, you control your team, you're micromanaging, right? And I was like, no, way on one side. But when I actually watched the video about some of the questions, it was more about self-control. Do you control your emotions, or are you very expressive in your emotions? And then I was on the other end of the spectrum. And then the other question was warm or cool, and wow, that's open for all kinds of interpretation. So I think that greatly changed my score too. Sorry, Alexei, you were going to say something.
No, I just noticed they seems like try to wait and like soften this like interpretation stuff by asking repeated question, as Nicola mentioned. No, sociological trick to like verify and maybe correct. But I don't know, I also noticed that some question could like drop you from one spectrum to another.
Yeah,
so on.
Yeah, that's true. I took quiz 3 times. 2 times I was in amiable, and once I was in analytical. So yeah.
I didn't even think about taking it. I think Craig mentioned the same thing, to just, yeah, it's a good idea, to measure several times and then take the average. But like one thing I also wanted to add is, one thing I did not like about how the test was set up was that at first, before I took the test, I read through the whole like guides and the social styles definition on the handbook section, and it was very clearly explained like what the quadrants are. And I think like I like immediately noticed. So like I thought I had some traits from all of these, but I immediately noticed, oh, I'm very firmly like in this quadrant and not the other quadrant. And I think this kind of sets yourself up, kind of biases yourself already before you even take the test to like give certain answers that I'm almost sure of. So I don't know how to better do this, because like on the other hand, you need kind of an explanation to even know what these vague questions mean. So I don't trust it that much, but in the end, I feel like it probably like fairly accurately described like what I feel about myself.
Yeah, I like the Sam Beckham quiz that he created. It's pretty nice because you can't see your score influencing overall. Like if you take the PDF, you can see the total kind of tally building up, so you can start gaming the system if you don't want to land in one or the other. So the first couple times I took it was on the PDF. The last couple times was on Sam Beckham's new UI that he created. So I found that very useful. So, and I added some more resources below. There's a handbook entry on social styles that got a lot of good information. There's a slide deck that was presented to the managers as we were going through this, and there's a lot of interesting takes on there. There's one slide in there as well that states, you know, you could be a combination of both. Like, it looks like we're all kind of amiable, analytical, or analytical, amiable for those that posted their scores here, which I also find very fascinating that we all kind of landed in the same realm or similar realm for those that posted. So a lot of good information if you want to follow up and read more about it. And then overall, if you found this type of quiz, this type of analysis interesting, I posted some more down here at the bottom that are different in different ways. So if you like reading up on these things, there's some other books and websites that I found interesting in the past. So any other topics on this? Nope. All right, let's jump over to the board. So I wanted to run through the board real quick since milestone's ending this week. I think I know the status for most, but let's run through them real quick. I will follow up with Chinyu on this one. Matthias, you've got export number of action cable connections. You think this one's in the closeout this week?
Yes, that is done.
Okay.
That is done. We actually did a bit more than this. So we have a whole bunch of action cable thread pool related metrics. Yeah, so that got merged this morning.
Okay. So are you just waiting to verify it, or can you close it out?
So the thing was, so what I did, so it was split up into two MRs, and the first MR I actually tested in Omnibus. We can't test it in prod because we're not running action cable in prod. So I would close it out. I think it's good.
Okay. This one's still on ours. Camille, do you know anything about this one? It's going to close out this week.
I need to check exactly what is in this follow-up.
Okay.
I don't remember exactly, because like when we were working on a bunch of these documentations, like we created the follow-ups basically for every unresolved topic.
Okay. See, Matthias.
They probably shouldn't have my face on it. Like this is really about so yeah, it's like the feature flag rollout issue for the dynamic resizer in general. It's just it happens in so many stages. I mean, we already have one version in prod behind the feature flag that where we did run experiments. If anything, it was Alexei working on this right now, so maybe it would be good to reassign that.
Yeah,
but also we're unlikely to ship what's currently in production. We
I'm not sure.
To do some basic testing.
What is the description of this issue? Like,
it's a feature flag issue that we have for every feature that's behind the feature flag.
No, I think we should just move it to the next milestone because it's like it would be a follow-up work after we'll ship everything, right? And verify.
Yeah, like we're not going to finish this milestone anyway.
Let's reassign Matthias.
Yeah, because
I'm not working. It makes sense. And then whoever is available when we are ready to remove all flags, we will just perform it. It's fairly simple.
Okay. Nicola.
I already closed the MR because it is unlikely that we will merge this. I even created one follow-up issue for this to introduce this new deduplication strategy for Sidekick, but unless we like drop out this dynamic scaling, we will probably not come back to this static approach.
It's also, this is just the POC, right? So the POC was
Yeah,
definitely done. I mean,
yeah, so
yeah.
POC is completed. We learned what we needed from it.
Exactly.
And if we decide to move forward with static, if, for example, security is an issue for dynamic or performance, we can always come back and reuse this POC. So yeah, we can close it. I even closed the MR for it.
So Alexei, like from the testing on 100 avatars, did we see like any noticeable difference on the dynamic scaling being on?
No, I didn't. I definitely didn't see any like specifics in workhorse health and so on, because I think the request rate was too small and we didn't see any incidents. The only thing that we noticed is on such small image selection, we have this kind of what Matthias mentioned, kind of quadruple like time growth when it comes to the image size, but it's not confirmed yet because we have a small selection of images. So I'd prefer to run it on a like full GitLab employees selection. So answering your question, no, I didn't see any issues so far looking at the graphs.
Okay.
No errors in our internal logging and so on.
So basically, we kind of need to run that on the bigger scale right now.
Yes, yes, definitely. And we have everything prepared, like dashboards, graphs, we could check it. Quite simple.
Matthias, did you look exactly at comparing the performance of the previous GM and a new seccomp GM version?
Yeah, so I looked at it a bit. So from the benchmarks I ran locally on my machine, it was about the same. But like, as we already saw, like, again, Alexei, I don't know how big the sample sizes were in prod, but from the measurements we took in
5,000,
prod,
6,000.
yeah, because it looked a lot faster, right, in prod, which might be because the images were a lot smaller than the ones I used for testing. So I don't know how representative this is of all of GitLab, because we were already only testing a small slice as well, right? But I mean, generally it looked good. Like outside of the outliers that took a lot of time because the images were larger, like 400 pixels or so, and which also looked like they might have been outliers because, like I said, all of the histogram buckets had the same size. It looked a bit suspicious, and there was no count attached. So maybe that was just a single.
It was one. It was one request on 200
okay.
pixels.
Wow.
Nobody was requested that. It's only my test.
Really, yeah, so we need to run more.
And I believe 400 was also my like queries when I clicked on the avatar, because it's not used in UI. It's upscaling. It's only a case of upscaling we are allowing. So maybe we should even like deny it, this kind of request. But we don't want to upscale, to be honest.
Yeah, that's true. And we should probably revisit the supported sizes, but that's not important at the moment. Because we are missing the popular ones and we are supporting some that are not used a lot, such as 400.
So basically, like we saw some increase in timings on if the resulting image size was about 400 pixels, right?
From one sample, yeah. So I don't think we should,
I would not even take 400 as a good example, because it's upscale. In our case, we store all images 200 per 200, and then we deciding to upscale. So it probably uses a different algorithm even in GM, as far as I know. So it's not even uses length source probably. So it has like some clever selection of algorithm depending on upscale, downscale, and so on. So I would not take this into selection to analyze.
Yeah, that's probably like something we should. Did we raise that with? I think we did, right? We raised this with Tim.
We did.
Because this is not even specific to the image scaling epic, right? It's just weird right now that we downscale everything on uploads to 200 pixels, and then we upscale it again when you go to the profile page. That doesn't really make sense because it's also that's not going to be great for high def, high res assets. Right?
Yeah, but it's not even part of the UI. It's when you click on the image itself, it's only renders the image in the empty page. So it doesn't even seem like part of the GitLab UI at all. It's like a separate, like, show me this image only kind of page.
No, I think it's if you go to the profile, the header image, it's 400 by 400 on that page.
Not sure. Let me check.
Yeah, I mean, if you say show me those images, just use the same URL it used to render the image you click. Right.
By the way, I also shared the document, Matthias, for performance results of comparing different libraries like Graphic Magic Fit, Sitecom, and Seccomp, and those libraries, Golang libraries that we tested, just for visibility.
How we look from like security point of view and integration point of view? I mean, integration, basically, what do workhorse maintainers or anyone that is gonna be reviewing, maintaining that says about our approach of graphics magic prefix? So like,
I mean, like that's, I mean, we already have something in production and use graphic magic, so that was not the problem. I think the biggest problem right now is that the currently open MR, they use the sandbox approach with Seccomp, is blocked by all these build environments that we need to compile that binary. So we need to, yeah. So let's talk about this because I had a couple of points here anyway. Yeah.
I want to like start and clarify one thing first before we get into building. Yep. Is like the Seccomp approach and like our reference POC like security validated by the security team and approved at this point?
You mean the Seccomp approach?
Yeah, so basically like we have the binary.
Yeah, they suggested it.
We have a binary that's like static linked and it appears to be working. Is it like, did we get like that some additional eyes from the security team to say, this is great, you should continue and finish that work? Or
yeah, I mean, we had two people from security copied on the MR, so they're aware this is going on.
So Camille, do you suggest to ping them directly one more time? I mean, to get like some summary from them at this point?
So like we have pretty complete solution at this moment, right? Because like from previous conversation, I understand that we talk about specific problems, but right now we are really on the like complete solution where there are still some concerns to resolve. So I think maybe it's like the right moment to get like the, let's say, semi-formal approval from the security team that this is what they had in their mind and they are fine with that solution, and we don't need to further involve them in all the follow-up integration work. Because like there is a few aspects that we did as part of that, like which is separate binary, which is seccomp, which is compiling graphics magic strip version. I'm sorry, I was out for a week, so I don't know exactly if we talk since like the last time that like we discussed these items. But from my perspective, I think it would be, if we know that this is basically like 99% complete, maybe except the building process, I think it would be the right moment to ensure that the security team is aware about our solution and is kind of like, let's say, semi-formally approving and knowing and like maybe additionally validating that that this is secure. It doesn't have these deficiencies that we were discussing before. And if they have any other suggestions, we can still apply them at that moment.
Yeah, we can do that. So just to be clear, they are aware, like 2 security team members have been reviewed this MR multiple times. So there was a lot of back and forth with them on like how we can cut down on the system calls. And they made a specific list of syscalls that they consider problematic, not all of which we were able to get rid of. But I think the last thing I remember, I think it was Anthony saying was that these memcopy system calls are not ideal, but if we, because it's the sandbox binary, it shouldn't be a big problem. But we can ask for like a formal approval again. Then there's this other issue of the strict checks that we need to redo, and that's something that Nicola currently works on, because with the GM binary, we got that for free with this like special prefix syntax that you can use when you pass the file name. So we have to build this manually now through the API integration. So that is a separate MR though. I think we can, just like we shipped the other MR behind the feature flag without all of the security issues in place. I think likewise we can ship, and probably should ship this one without all of these things in place, and then just chip away at it bit by bit. I would just like to parallelize this stuff because it's already taking much longer than we thought it would be, so that we can look at all these different aspects in parallel and not wait for like one team to come back with an okay before we even start the remaining work. Because for the whole build environment stuff, it is a lot of work still. So I would prefer to work on this now.
Yeah, that MR is ready for review, but it's like forked from your second MR, and it's dependent on some changes of like content type param that we are sending from Rails.
And on top of that, there is another MR currently in maintainer review, which extends the current solution that's in production with a number of these things, like this magic byte check, for instance, because that had already been open. There's a couple other improvements in there, like passing down the content type from Rails into Workhorse, which is something that we will have to look at anyway, and a bunch of unit tests added and stuff. So there's a bit of a pipeline of things going on now that need to land like one after another. It would just be good to keep that rolling without waiting for a particular team. But yeah, like, so, okay, I mean, I can, should we do that in the initial security review issue? Like to ask if we can get like a thumbs up, thumbs down on the current approach? It's just the MR is still like very much a work in progress.
So but I mean, unless something drastic changes, like the structural idea and structural implementation will not change. What can change is like exactly where we get dependencies from, but it seems to me that we're gonna stick with this baseline, which is like static compile, seccomp, and the graphics magic library implemented in CGO, right? So what can really change is like maybe some specific functions being used, or like dependencies where we take them from, but it's not gonna change the security aspect of the solution.
Except for the, I'm not 100% confident that we have really honed in on the final list of system calls we need to allow, because with this super restricted set that I last was experimenting with, when I tested this at scale, and like Nicola saw something similar, we saw occasional crashes when the application was trying to allocate memory. And this may or may not be related to us preventing this mmap call from happening. So maybe we need to, there might be some like minor changes to like what we need to allow the app to do.
I will look into this. I was planning to do this. Try to replicate this memory failure, something like this, as far as I remember.
Okay, cool. Yeah, that would be great. Right, because I think that was really the last open question that we had on that MR that was security specific. At least in my eyes, I'm not aware of anything else. That said, this whole like build environment stuff, so this all fell out of this issue, the third one from the top here. Ensure, oh, sorry, actually, no, there's like another one that should have my face on, which has the, which is the sandboxing issue. Yeah, this one down there, image scaling, minimize security impact of scalar. I would really suggest at this point, and I can at least create templates for this, but some help would be appreciated, that would create stories for all of these different things that need to be fixed for this MR to be mergeable, because we can't even ship this by a feature flag currently, because if we were to merge it now, everything would fail. Like the GDK would fail, GCK would fail, except for workhouse CI, like all the builds would fail. So, and I'm currently looking into omnibus support, but it kind of ballooned a little bit because we had no idea upfront, like, like how much work this would be. But I think now.
Can we use your branch and basically use your branch to build all possible projects that we have to support to actually know what is failing and how we could fix that? Because like you mentioned omnibus, and I know that like for omnibus we can have our own branch of the omnibus that uses different branch of the GitLab workforce. We can do the same for the CNG, GCK, as you mentioned, like it's probably the easiest to support. And probably like the hardest like to support is a GDK, but maybe we could get someone from the GDK team to help out how to bundle these dependencies.
Yeah, totally. But I still think we should create issues for this stuff because it is a fair amount of work. Because like the stuff I'm doing on Omnibus right now, which is exactly what you mentioned, is for now I'm just building, like creating new software definitions, build this from that branch, build it into a custom Docker image, then test that image. I've spent like 2 days on this already, and it's like not really related anymore to this particular issue. It was just kind of fell out of it. So I don't know, like I think it would make sense to have like separate issues for these different projects because it's unrelated work.
Would we group these issues somehow, like in a sub epic or whatever? Like,
yeah,
so
I think that
would be clear.
Sense. Yeah.
That something that blocks us from merging this stuff, for example, even on the feature flags. So we could like, because there are a lot of issues on this global epic, and it's hard to understand priorities at this moment. So for example, when I have time, I would see clearly what I could check, take and fix really fast.
Yeah. I mean, I can create placeholders at least.
We could think after this meeting and create this items if you want.
Sure. All right.
So it sounds like this one will be promoted to a sub epic, and then individual issues created underneath that one to break out the different environments that Matthias was talking about.
Not this. I said next.
Yeah.
Next.
Oh,
yeah. It's a good point. We could also promote this to an epic. That's another way of going about it. Yeah.
But previous one, Matthias, that has on your face on, it's about Google Cloud environment, right? But
yeah, I mean,
kind of contradicts that we already test this in production, right? I mean, it's...
No.
No?
So no. No, I think this is still useful. So, I mean, the first half of this, I would say, is done, which was to make sure that environment. So I think what this is useful for, oh, you mean like to actually, okay, so you mean to grab like things like performance numbers and resource consumption in production. Yeah. Yeah, okay, that's a fair question. I don't know. Yeah, I'm not sure. Yeah, I guess,
because as I remember, the original idea was to like find performance indicators and so on, like from this test, and see if there will be any issues with like production like traffic. But it seems like we are replicating this with the current GM, what is merged. So I don't know, maybe we could just change the priority for now and not concentrate on it, because there is a chance we would see them in production.
Yeah, it's a fair point. I mean, like one thing I was hoping, so because it wasn't really clear in the beginning, like how it might fail in production. Like, so one problem with production right now is at least unless you have access to a production box, you can't actually see what's going on that machine, right? In terms of the processes running and stuff. And I guess like one idea I had there was if you run it something like a soak test, you could see are we creating zombie processes that never terminate, you know, because GM gets stuck or something like that. So this is something that we would have been able to do with that environment. But yeah, like I guess that's mostly, you would do that before you deploy it to production. So maybe we're past that stage right now.
So what do you want to do with this issue then?
I would postpone it, in my opinion.
Yeah, okay, sure.
Next milestone, maybe an assign Matthias, so he's not working on this. So it would be clear that nobody is working on this.
Right.
I think in general, it's a great design decision. I mean, for such, you know, for such architectural feature to have this kind of sandbox with production-like traffic pointed to it and replay it and see any potential issues. But
yeah, the
the
problem is like you
issues
would
will
need
already
more.
emerge to pro.
Yeah, because it's not just a VM you need to fire up, right? You need to prepare kind of the test environment to have like sufficient data that it's meaningful to test, right? Because if you install just an vanilla omnibus, there's like, even if you import GitLab HQ, it has 0 avatars. I already did that. I had an omnibus installed with GitLab HQ imported, and no user has avatars. They all have these generic pattern avatars. So it wasn't even testable. Yeah. So yeah, good call.
We can close the rollout of static image resizing because that's not going to happen, at least. Most likely not going to happen.
Okay. Binary match. Matthias?
It's in the works.
Yeah, so this
Right.
one is like interesting because so there is an OpenMR that is waiting for maintainer review, or that is in maintainer review. There's some back and forth there. By the way, Alexi, I'm looking into this right now. I need to change the way we log again in this MR as well, because we weren't using the structured logging everywhere.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
Okay.
Anyway, I'm looking into this now. That's another thing that this other OpenMR that uses SecComp will benefit from, because these are all shared concerns. Like it doesn't depend on SecComp or not, like how we log in the app and stuff. So this is all also because we're still a bit unfamiliar with Workhorse, and stuff just takes time. There's a lot of back and forth between maintainers and us. And then Nicola is working on an MR against my new MR that addressed that concern again in that variant of the POC.
Yeah, because we switched
confusing.
to APIs, so it's pretty much the same thing, but we're now checking in the image resize.
So this stuff, by the way, I'm wondering, like, we probably, okay, we can keep it at 13.4 right now, but I'm not confident that we're going to ship it. Let's see.
Okay. Let's see. And you're up again, Matthias. Minimize security impact. We talked about it a bit, but does it feel like this is going to close out in 13.4?
No, like this is this thing that we said we want to promote to an Epic, right? That this is the issue that triggered all the sandboxing discussion that we have since been working on. So I think we've said everything we need to say here. There's just a lot of open things that need to be done, and we can turn it into an Epic, and then we can create smaller tasks in that one, because otherwise this issue is going to take forever.
Got a couple of feature flag issues here, Camille.
Yeah, so actually I need to like open two MRs to remove these feature flags. I'm just gonna do it this week.
Okay.
I did not hear any complaints about them being enabled by default.
Yeah. All right, Lexi, this is ongoing.
Yeah, I'm planning to close it tomorrow with the help of Camille, doing the wider testing. The first stage is ready. I mean, I tried to get some data and created some sort of report in this issue about this first smaller testing. So I think it still fits this milestone. So we will run this tomorrow and close it.
Okay.
With the data we have.
All right, Matthias, anything more to add on this one?
No, actually just thinking that this is kind of weird. It's just like we had this sub-epic where we grouped all the POC approaches together. So this is the one that reflects the currently open MR. But we've said everything. We've said this will probably close together with the
next one.
And to be honest, like the POC is actually, we have a proof of concept. Like we can consider it done as well. Like we've built
Okay.
it, you know, we've tested it, it works. It's just like shipping it into production is more difficult than we thought it would be.
All right.
Okay, so for the last one, we created two MRs, like two POCs to check those Golang libraries instead of Graphic Magic. We run the performance tests against them, and at least the minimum required system calls for both of them. And I posted the results in the document for this meeting, so you guys can check. So I guess we can close it since the POCs are completed. I already closed the MRs. I think that Alexei closed another one, but I'm not sure like what is the final decision or conclusion, because they performed pretty much the same and they're requiring again similar systems, similar number of system calls and similar system calls as the Graphic Magic do. So
yeah, that's an interesting discussion because graphics magic is well supported, right? And I guess that's our like main reason to go for it, but it has some overhead with delivering it to any distribution.
yeah,
Right.
the main problem with this
But-
library is that they're not mature, like the one.
But did you reach out to security about this? Because I think that was our
I
action
didn't.
point from the last.
I
Well,
didn't.
Okay,
I
let's do that
forgot,
because
but we
we
should.
talked about this
we should.
Okay, let's
last
bring
week,
some.
right? We should ask security like what they weigh more.
Should we do
favorably.
in this security epic where discussion is happening?
Yeah, we
Is
could.
it that,
Sure.
that is the best place, right?
Yeah, I guess.
Yeah. So the point is, we should decide, like, yeah. Is
Because
it
like
more
all things
painful?
being equal, all other things being equal, which they seem to be, because this is not faster, it does not appear to be performing fewer syscalls. So it's also definitely requires to be seccommed. So all other things being equal, I personally see no reason to use any of these libraries because they look like single person like side projects, and then I'd rather go with GM. I know it's ugly, but it's, you know, it's been around for like 20 years or something. So have a bit more confidence in the longevity of that.
No, personally also for GM, from what I've seen, even with this overhead, because it's like stable solution. And this library is out nowhere. And
well, my
don't
biggest
know.
concern, if we go with any of these library and someone drops support for them, like it will fall on us to support those libraries, which is bad. That's the only con that I can see. Yeah, the biggest.
Okay. Do you want to close that out later on, Nicola?
Yeah,
Any comments
I will
or-
close it later up. I will just post the question for security and post our conclusions. So let's see what they will say. But yeah.
Okay. All right. Went through the board. I think, are there any other topics on image resizing? I know Josh had a question. Josh, you want to verbalize, or was your question answered during the course of the conversation?
Yeah, I think it was answered. Thanks.
Okay.
I think Camille answered it below. So.
All right. Are there any release post items we should add to this release post for 13.4? I will review all of our MRs later and see if there's anything, but I don't know if there's anything top of mind anyone could call out immediately. All right, doesn't sound like anything top of mind. Let's see. I think we covered everything. So I will add some issues for the next milestone. We've been talking about lessons learned, and I think everybody I've talked to said we've learned some great lessons from image scaling, and we should actually document them as part of our OKR and something we've talked about for a while. So I will add those issues for 13.5, and I might even suggest folks for different areas within those issues. So nothing else there. Telemetry we covered, feature flags. Anything else you want to add?
No, I just want to say, like, I think we should, you know, it was really great to see like how Chinyu pulled that off, because I mean, he worked on this all by himself, this milestone. I think it was really cool. So he did the console integration. So I'm really excited, like, to ship this and see what's going to happen because we should now be able to fall back to console if it exists. We have a bunch of extra cool stuff in there, like we now perform readiness checks against Prometheus to make sure that the request will actually have a chance of succeeding, like before we query it. And he also created fixes to deal with what we think might be, this whole SSL related issue. Like if you put Prometheus behind an SSL proxy, that currently we just fail opening a connection. So that's still in review, but like, yeah, we should be able to ship it in 34. So there should be some cool fixes in there.
All right, I think we covered all the agenda items. Any other topics covered today? Don't see anything. All right. Thanks, everybody. Happy Monday. Added
Happy
follow-up items in
Monday.
the doc.
See you guys.
Yep.